Hey everybody, welcome back. So, wanted to do a another quick video. This one's probably going to be fairly short, just because I'm pretty tired. I've just got home, and it's on Sunday night, so I got to get this done fairly quickly to kind of adhere to my normal schedule of updating twice a week. So, let's jump right into it. So this video is going to be on the right solution, and talking about something that a couple of people commented on in the comments recently in a couple different videos, and then I got an email about. So before I jump into the actual video itself, I wanted to take a quick minute. I think this is the first video that I've put up, or that I recorded at least, after the shooting in New Zealand. And I don't know if I have any Kiwis who watch the channel. I looked at the analytics a little while ago, but despite being a fairly small channel, there are viewers from all around the globe, which is kind of crazy. And just on the off chance that some folks from New Zealand are watching, I just wanted to give my condolences about such an awful event. I've been feeling really kind of stressed out and sort of down ever since that happened. Living in Los Angeles in the United States, over the last few years, we've become sort of numb to it, and I think there is this sort of, I don't know, this sort of view by us, and I think a lot of the world, that this is a weird American, or U.S., I should say, cultural kind of issue. And I think that we sort of have sort of accepted that as the case. So when it's when you see this kind of thing happening elsewhere, it's very sad, especially given that we've had a lot of politics of fear coming out of the U.S. Not exclusively. There's been a lot of it in Europe and other kind of places as well. But I think that it has sort of fueled those fires, and yeah, just a sad thing. The other thing that I wanted to do, just to take a moment and sort of mention, is this. It's such a weird thing to do in a tech video, but like the world right now is so crazy. Just to take a second, just to say, as an American citizen who lives in, basically Hollywood, more or less down the street from a lot of the movie studios. That if you are a Muslim, or you live in a predominantly Muslim country or culture, please, please don't think that we all feel this way about you. I've been very lucky. When I first moved out to California, I had sort of a wonderful experience and a terrible experience regarding sort of Islam and sort of Islamophobia. And the first wasn't tied to Islam at all, really. It just was sort of a side effect, where I moved out to Los Angeles just before the dot-com crash happened. So I got out here, I didn't know anybody, and then basically the dot-com crash happened. And I moved to Huntington Beach, California, which is in Southern California, and didn't really know anybody, but I moved out here with a friend of mine from high school, a good buddy of mine. And he ended up getting a job in a pawn shop, and I had a whole bunch of different jobs, one of which I'll talk about in a second. And just by random circumstance, he worked with a really cool Pakistani guy named Fred. That's his Americanized kind of name. And through him, I made friends with just this cohort of wonderful Pakistani people. Just all of his friends. They just welcomed us in. And we're just such kind wonderful people. And, giving the timing of it, if when the dot-com crashed, it was basically like a year before 9/11 happened. And the second experience that I had, this was also in Huntington Beach. The economy was really depressed. I didn't have a network in California to find a tech job. Tech jobs were very few and far between at that point, and I basically needed to pay rent. So I was doing anything I could do. I was doing construction for a while, and then I finally got a job at an art store, working in shipping and receiving. I did that for about a year and a half, I think, until I found a tech job again. And I think one of the saddest experiences I've ever had, and anytime something like this happens with not just Islamophobia, but just these kind of weird racist or nationalistic kind of things, it always sort of brings me back. There's this very sweet young girl who worked the cash register, and she's just a really good kid. She you could tell she was a good student. She was always very punctual about being on time at work. She was very diligent, always very well put together. And then one day she didn't show up to work. And it was right after 9/11. She just didn't show up to work, and then she didn't show up to work for the next time she was on the schedule, and then the time after that. And eventually the management folks reached out, and what had happened was she was walking home from school because she was a high school kid, 16, 17, something around that, young kid. And some guys jumped out of a truck and like knocked her down. And, I don't think they like beat her up or anything like that, but when they knocked her down, they pushed her or something like that. She ended up falling on her arm and she broke her arm. And it was just really crappy. And just want to put out some positivity. I know that's kind of a depressing story, but want to put out some positivity and just let you know that if you are somebody of the Muslim faith, you know, there are lots and lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of people who have your back. Not specifically because you're a Muslim, just because you're a human being. And, yeah. So anyway, now that we'll get all that stuff out of the system and kind of get that done, we'll move on to the rest of it with hopefully everybody not having sort of tuned off. So on a positive note, I want to remind you guys that the 200 subscriber contest is still going on. You can win a Raspberry Pi Zero. The rules are in a separate video. If you go look at the channel, there's a 200 subscribers video. Just click on that and it goes over the deal. It's a very short video. And yeah, basically all you got to do is you could post a link to one of my videos or my channel somewhere. And then you go to a little Google Doc thing and paste a link there, and then you'll be entered into the running for it. And I think at this point we only have 2 or 3 people signed up, so there's a really good chance that if you do it, you'll win the Raspberry Pi Zero. Now, granted, it's only like a really cheap little $10 device, so probably not that big of a deal, but yeah. So what I wanted to talk about, and I'm not sure whether this will be the name of the video, or if the name of the videos will be Windows is fantastic, depending on how clickbaiting I feel like after this. So the reason why is I've gotten a couple comments on my videos, and I actually got an email that was about some other stuff as well, but it mentioned this as well, saying that I shouldn't be using Windows on my desktop if this is a Linux channel. Yeah, it's not a Linux channel. It isn't. It's a Unix channel, maybe. It's more about IT career stuff and being a Linux administrator. But I'm not a Linux evangelist. I'm not trying to talk anybody into using Linux or even open source. I prefer it in a lot of places, um, but I'm doing this because it's my profession. I've been using Unix and Linux since, you know, late 90s, right? So looking at about 25 years that I've been doing Unix stuff. And I should note that it was Unixy stuff when I first started, and only recently has become Linuxy stuff. Now, I've always liked open source. I was a little bit more, towards the BSD bent, especially early on. But I came around with Linux, and I've worked for Canonical and for SUSE, and I teach Linux classes now, and I think it's great. But I'm never going to try to convince anybody to use it because Windows is fantastic. It's a really good operating system. It's not a perfect operating system, but especially with recent versions like Windows 10, it runs a huge array of software. It is fantastically backwards compatible. It is an operating system that tons of people know, and it's overall a good operating system. And I think that, especially when you're early on in your career and you're very passionate about the technology that you use and the solutions for problems, a lot of times there's going to be, to you, a right solution. And this is something that I would encourage you guys to kind of take two routes on. One of the two routes. One is go the entrepreneur route, and there's going to be a right solution, and you're going to go pursue that. And then the other one is if you're going to go work for other people, get rid of that idea as quickly as you possibly can, because there usually is not a right solution. There is the best solution, or a good solution, and you want to find those. And the reason why I use Windows is really, really simple, right? I contract to a company that requires I use Windows-only applications. That's it. Well, actually, no, that's not it. I also really like to draw. I don't know if you can see it. I'm going to try to pull it over. But I have a Wacom Cintiq tablet display. It's on this nice little arm that you can see me moving around, and I draw on it. And there's Krita for Linux. There's MyPaint for Linux. There's a couple other drawing applications for Linux. And Krita's not half bad, but it doesn't hold a candle to Clip Paint Studio or Photoshop. It's good, right? But if I'm going to draw something, I'm going to spend a bunch of time, to do some illustration kind of things just for fun. If it takes me 10 to 15% more time to go do it in an application like Krita, a lot of times I'm not going to do it. So I do use Windows. I have no problem with Windows. I'm probably not going to never not use Windows at all. If I did, that probably meant that I went to Mac. Now I've got a ThinkPad that I've got Linux on right now. Normally I have FreeBSD on there, but I've got Linux on it right now. And I use that. So that's my alternate desktop. And then also through Windows, you can install Ubuntu on top of Windows now. And that gives me a bash prompt. And that for me is the big thing. If I can go ahead and have a command line prompt, that's the big deal. So the reason why I think this is an important thing to talk about, especially given that, the focus of this channel is mainly on systems administration and IT career stuff, is a lot of times there will be a solution that's technically the best solution, but it may not be in line with the business decisions. Let's say, for example, you have a project, right? And the project is to set up some database server, and you need to have this be highly available, and you need to, have a certain amount of resources. And your ideal solution that you come up with is going to be doing a Linux HA pair on, some kind of physical server because you need to have, bare metal performance, whatever it is. And for high availability, you're going to go ahead and have some shared storage behind it. So you're going to have a storage system. We won't worry about the particular vendor or the type, but we'll say it's like some iSCSI storage or something like that. And that's your solution. And then you go to your boss and you say, this is the solution that we came up with. This is what we want to go forward with. And they say, cool, how much is it going to cost us? And you say, well, I got some quotes from vendors, and this is going to cost us $26,000, right? Everything in total, right? Storage system, switches, servers, all that kind of stuff. $26,000 for this solution. And they say, cool, but we only have 10. So we need you to scale that back a bit. And what you could do is you could fight about it. You could spend a whole bunch of time getting very stressed out, making your boss angry, and kind of going through those kind of things. Or you could say, all right, well, let me put this into a design document, and I'm going to go ahead and show this solution that we already have, and the virtues of it, and why I think it's going to justify, $25,000. And then I'm also going to go put together a solution that may not have all of these requirements for high availability, right? We're going to do our best for it, but we'll come as close as we can, but it'll only be 10 grand, right? So it'll come in at the budget that you've specified. There's a very good chance that they'll come back with the $10,000 solution as the choice, even if it's not the optimal solution, right? That's because the right solution in that scenario for the business is the one that they can afford, right? If that database is not producing more than $10,000 worth of value, right, for the company, if you're not getting, the money to not only to pay the investment back, but to make money on it from that thing, technically that right solution is the wrong solution, right? If it works flawlessly, if it's technically correct, if it's perfect from an engineering standpoint, but it means that the company can't spend that money on marketing, and without spending that money on marketing, you can't get new sales and all that kind of stuff. This is the wrong decision. So yeah, I appreciate the feedback. I'm glad that you guys feel invested enough in this channel that you'll give me grief when you see something to point out that you think is worth criticizing, but I'll probably still keep using Windows. I'm also going to still have long rambly videos, which is my purview as a channel, given that I'm not getting paid for this. And I hope that you guys still find that these are useful. And there's a right and a wrong way to go do everything, but there's usually a whole bunch of gray in between the black and white. So, keep that in the back of your mind. And if you're a Linux evangelist, awesome, do it up. Try to convince people and talk them into it. I was like that once. I was like that about Mac OS back before it was OS X. When I was a kid, I was on the Mac Evangelista, which is like a mailing list that they had back in the FidoNet days, right? And I was such an evangelist, I got quoted in Rules for Revolutionaries by Guy Kawasaki, who was the original marketing director of Apple. And yeah, those days are gone for me. I will give my opinion on things. I will tell people what I like, but I never try to push people into doing things, my way, right? There's more than one way to do things, right? So that's my little video for tonight. I will be back on Wednesday with another one. Thank you guys so much for watching. Have a great and happy St. Patrick's Day, if you care about that kind of thing. Otherwise, take care of yourself, and I'll see you in the next video.